welcome to Student Thrash Out. Today we'll be discussing some news within the world and some social and moral issues that have been discussed by everyone. Today, as always, we have two guests to help us explore the proposed topics of today's show. These are students, as our show is by the students, for the students. Hello and welcome to Student Thrash Out. Thank you for joining us. You are?
I am Jamie Garwood. I'm here today because I'm interested in politics and film.
And
hello, my name's Oliver Salter. I'm also interested in politics, but also in open world facts and theories.
Our first topic of the day is our good old friend Trump, or more specifically, about the aspirations for a giant wall along the border of Mexico. Not only this, but he has insisted all throughout his campaign that Mexico will pay for the wall. We have a clip, if we can play that.
I've just landed, having returned from a very important and special meeting with the President of Mexico, a man I like and respect very much, and a man who truly loves his country, Mexico. And by the way, just like I am a man who loves my country, the United States. It was a thoughtful and substantive conversation, and it will go on for a while, and in the end, we're all going to win. Both countries, we're all going to win. Are you ready? We will build a great wall along the southern border. And Mexico will pay for the wall. 100%. They don't know it yet, but they're going to pay for the wall. And they're great people and great leaders, but they're going to pay for the wall. On day one, we will begin working on an impenetrable, physical, tall, powerful, beautiful southern border wall. We will use the best technology, including above and below ground sensors, that's the tunnels. Remember that, above and below. Above and below ground sensors. Towers, aerial surveillance, and manpower to supplement the wall, find and dislocate tunnels, and keep out criminal cartels. And Mexico, you know that, will work with us. I really believe it. Mexico will work with us. I absolutely believe it. And especially after meeting with their wonderful, wonderful president today, I really believe they want to solve this problem along with us, and I'm sure they will.
Hello and welcome back. And now we will hear some comments from our guests.
Yeah, I just think what he has to say is just absolutely ridiculous, Joe. The wall will be about 1,900 miles, which is just crazy to think about. The amount of money that's going to cost is just ridiculous.
I mean, it says it right here, 10 to 12 billion US dollars. And the Americans and the Mexicans are paying for it? That's stupid.
But we also have to think about it this way. So far, El Chapo and other drug lords have been using the current border as a way to get cheap drugs through drug mules. This wall that's it, it's definite. The only way that anything can come through is by standardized checks, drug checks, every kind of check that you can think of. This wall will ultimately bring down crime levels in Texas, Washington, and the areas surrounding.
But then if you think about it, the amount of money they're going to spend, $10 to $12 billion on just one thing to stop that massive crime. You could invest smaller amounts of money to deter stuff like that. You could spend the rest of it on people that need it in the United States.
I definitely do agree on that. Like, some of these people need that help in both countries.
A little info now. This wall of his is almost assured to cross into private land, which means that a legal settlement with the owners will have to be discussed. This will also increase the predicted costs of 10 to 12 billion US dollars.
Can you just imagine though what would happen when they have to go around and ask these people, like, can we build a wall for your land? People aren't going to want to do it.
Exactly. I mean, like some of these people will go. Some of these people will go be like, I live here, I paid for this. I'm not going to like move somewhere else, which might be difficult for me to find.
Especially with the current increase in home sale prices over there, it will be incredibly difficult to find any sort of homestead for it. Whilst we're on the topic, the ecosystem that surrounds the Mexican-US border is very delicate at the moment and is likely to face trouble from the colossal construction project. I've got to ask, what do you believe will be the main issues of the construction?
Well, I can't see how they can build half a wall and then leave it for like land and terrains to make up the rest, because people will eventually find a way around it. I just think it's ridiculous. If he wants to promise something, then he's got to continue through with it.
I mean, opposite this wall idea goes nowhere. Like, it's just a waste of money and time.
Well, the only way that we're going to find out is we will have to trust, and we will have to wait and see if this money is being used wisely, or if it's being used for foolish gain. On a more serious note about the topic, a few ideas have been proposed to ensure that the costs do not fall to the American taxpayers. A way of how this could be achieved, as proposed by Sean Spicer, Mr. Trump's spokesman, is to raise the tariffs on imports from Mexican products. The idea being that the increased revenue will cover the costs of the wall. A more morally questionable way of achieving this is to stop Mexican workers in the US sending money back home to their families. The idea being that the threat will force Mexico to cough up the costs. May I ask for your opinions on the...
Well, it says here that on the 26th of January, that the president will want to have a 20% tax on the Mexican imports to pay for the wall. Is that correct?
That will be the tariff.
Yeah, I just don't think that's fair either. I just don't think that people still will be deterred for doing something like that. I don't think a whole country is going to say, okay, we'll pay for the wall now because you're not going to let us like send money back to our families. I just think it's very stupid.
Let's face it, at this rate, with what Donald Trump's doing to the borders, how he's discussing this with the Mexican president, he isn't leaving any spaces open for open debate on whether or not this will destroy the Mexican ecosystem at the moment, or whether it will destroy the economy in Mexico. All that he's worried about is the economy, the ecosystem of the United States of America, which, let's face it, he's not doing a very good job. Let's not dwell on Trump though, so this is exactly what he wants. But us Brits can't help but find this silly little man amusing. We will now cut to an ad break and be back for the next topic.
People tell me to be cautious. People tell me not to.
Welcome back, folks. This topic is a social moral dilemma that most people and shows would approach lightly, but not us. We will tackle this head on, the topic being death row. Is it justified in some cases? Is it necessary? Is it really up to anyone who should live and who should die? Our guests will discuss this further. Oliver.
Well, I believe that some, not all, absolutely have nothing more to do with the contribute to this world other than pain, misery, and should absolutely be disposed of.
Jamie.
Yes, Oliver. Would you like to continue?
Well, I mean more specifically, for cold-blooded killers, for example, rapists and pedophiles, those types of criminals, as in my opinion, and I'm sure many others, even if they don't like to admit it, should, without question, not be able to continue to plague our society with their existence. I mean, death penalty suggests that those executed will not commit any further crimes. Not only this, but it will dent in crime itself. It also lessens the experience of life imprisonment, as I'm sure you all agree. Like, I don't want to pay taxes to let some scum little piece of human trash live in a nice warm room with food and water served to them on a plate, where there's some good-hearted people living in the streets.
Good points being raised.
Well, while I can see your point in the argument, the fact remains that it is against the law to morally and questionably kill someone. So why should the government, or anyone else for that matter, be able to decide who lives or dies?
This topic has been discussed by many human rights groups, as obviously it deals with the disposal of human life. Whereas many groups tend to say that a prisoner should not be killed for any reason, be his crime rape or the simple theft of bread or water. The fact remains, with the amount of people plugging up our prison systems at the moment, human garbage every day doing crime, would it morally be right though for a government to sustain a rate of execution?
Well, then why should a murderer not be murdered himself? As they say, the punishment should fit the crime. An eye for an eye, would you think?
An eye for an eye leaves the whole world blind.
I believe that some, not all, absolutely have nothing more to contribute to this world other than pain and misery, and should be absolutely disposed of is a great thing to say. But let's face it, what are we going to do with the bodies? We're going to cremate them. We're going to bury them. Let's face it, our prison system is rife with all types of corruption. Who's to say that some guard doesn't put drugs or something like that into the body to be sent home for burial? Let's face it, death row doesn't exactly propose an absolute stop to crime. All that it proposes is a way to carry crime onwards from the prison back to society. Any more comments on death row?
No.
Well, there have been passionate views from all of us here today. Before we get carried away with just this topic, we have more to cover. And this one next is more sinister and worrying than the rest. And we'll discuss it after the break.
Monopoly. Monopoly is a great way to bring families together. Teach your children the value of capitalism. It's a fun and exciting game. Rules are easy to follow, so accurate to real life, and helps bring the family together. Monopoly. Capitalism at its best.
Hey guys, I see you stuck around for our third and final topic of the day. I know our show is renowned for its light-hearted take on current events and social issues. However, this next topic is no laughing matter. Recently, I mean very recently, a video clip emerged of Russian military forces mobilizing into the city of Vladivostok, which borders North Korea and China. This action is unconfirmed, as always, by the Russian government. This occurred after North Korea stated It is prepared for all-out war with the United States of America. I would like to ask for your opinions and your fears about what might happen.
Well, according to reports, a military convoy of 8 surface-to-air missiles, part of the Russian air defence, have been seen on the move, which is quite frightening, if I must say so.
Not to mention 400 anti-aircraft missiles were moved to the city, what was it?
Vladivostok.
Yes, where Vladimir Putin already has a major navy base.
But we must look at this as well for what it is. As we already know, the dictator of North Korea, Kim Jong-un, is currently at a state where he can launch long-range nuclear missiles, which will not only affect Russia, but also the United States, and of course, the United Kingdom. We have to think, would this motion be necessary for the Russian government, or are they pushing matters towards a world war?
If World War III does start out, it will not be like the other two, it will be nuclear.
I have been sent a tweet from executives by Donald Trump stating, "I have great confidence that China will properly deal with North Korea. If they are unable to do so, the US, with its allies, will." This basically means that China better deal with North Korea, or the US is going to drag its allies, including us, into World War III. Another quote coming in, this time from China's Foreign Minister Wang Yi. He warned conflict could break out any moment, he pleaded. We call on all parties to refrain from provoking and threatening each other and not to let the situation get to an irreversible and unmanageable state. I would like your opinion on this.
Well, North Korea has warned the US not to activate action after holding a military parade that showed off new intercontinental and submarine-launched ballistic missiles, which I have seen on news and has been quite some scary sights to see.
I mean, the officials from other regions say that each country will be hit back with nuclear attacks if it's necessary, and why should we get dragged into this mess? There's no point.
But we all have to face the fact that Kim Jong-un at the moment is unpredictable. He starves his own people. He's a ruthless tyrant. Would this motion of war towards a man who would willingly kill his own men be so far from a moral view?
So you're saying that we go to war with North Korea, try and stop this man?
I say that we should not do any preemptive strikes unless North Korea provokes us. At this moment in time, North Korea is telling us that they are ready to go to war. If they are ready to go to war and are ready to attack countries who have no dealings with North Korea, then we should be ready to attack North Korea. We're approaching the end of our show, but before we do, I'd like to give you all some information on the effects of a nuclear war and the chances of humanity's survival if such a conflict was to happen. Well, I do not think that the initial blast and shockwave would be the worst of it. Believe me, they would be the lucky ones. Radiation would be the biggest threat, and the radioactive isotopes that fuel these atomic bombs have a lifespan, which means it wouldn't be a few days or months, it would be years after that the radiation would still be apparent. The types of radiation that an atomic bomb can emit can cause tumours, leukemia, and damaged DNA, causing problems for generations to come. This is because when a nuclear bomb is detonated on the ground, particles of dirt and air are thrust into the upper atmosphere and are then made radioactive. These particles will eventually be dispersed and fall to the ground. This affects plants, which then affects animals, which then affects us. I've got to ask, with all this talk of nuclear war, it does bring the fact about that all of the countries right now are all armed, ready to launch any moment, a push of a button and that ends it all. Do you think that nuclear weapons, such as these, should be used in a war?
No, definitely not.
It's a unanimous thing that nuclear weapons just should not be used.
It's a whole ecosystem that will be destroyed if nuclear weapons are used. As you just stated, obviously, animals and plants all die out, and then it's just going to cause massive knock-on effects.
Everything we've built, gone in a second. Like, what would people do after who survived? Like, there'll be smaller skirmishes and all like that, smaller wars between different people trying to claim food and water. Do you want that to happen in our society?
The one thing that we can all agree on is that there will be mutually assured destruction. Meaning that if one goes, then all go. There is no country on earth that will survive. Maybe groups of survivors may band together, but that's not particularly something that we'd like to focus on. But however, this is something that people at home should focus on. The large-scale nuclear war is much more frightening when an atomic bomb goes off. The radioactive fallout that is propelled into the atmosphere, soot, dust, black carbon, which is essentially black clouds, this sheer mass of carbon blocks out all manner of sunlight, forcing the world into a state of nuclear winter and diminishing any chance for our species to survive. So here's a question for everyone sitting at home watching this. Could we survive? Does the human race deserve a second chance? That I leave to all of you. This is Student Thrash out, signing off.